Good morning. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. We're doing a 30-day American Accent Challenge where we bring you a live video every day for 30 days to help you with pronunciation, intonation, accent error patterns, and everything you need to know to improve your American accent when speaking English. Today's class, we're going to be talking about, hello there, we're going to be talking about plurals and what you need to know about making nouns plural in terms of pronunciation and the rules for what the S at the end says. So we talked about S and Z in day 4, and we talked about voiced and voiceless sounds. And you might remember as we were talking about past tense, we looked at the rules for adding ED. And you can check that out in my playlist. The 30-day accent challenge has all of those videos. Also, you can go to the website and get practice materials for those topics. So for today, let's talk about what are the rules when I add S to make something plural. You may be unaware that many times when I'm putting S on a word to make it plural, the S actually says the Z sound and not the S sound. And even if you were aware that it's supposed to say Z, many people have an accent error pattern where they devoice the final consonant on a word. So you might be trying to say a word like movies, and it might sound more like movies. Why does this matter? Many times the S and Z sounds, as long as there's a sound there for the S sound, people will understand that you're using a plural. But if that sound is too quiet or if it drops off, it can sound like you're making a grammatical mistake using the singular version rather than the plural version. And this is true for many other forms of grammar in English. So we put those S and Z sounds on for verb tenses, possessives, like we're talking about today, plurals, and other cases. So it's really valuable to be aware of these patterns and to practice on them. So when we put an S on a word to make it plural, it follows a pattern whether it says S or Z. It depends on the word that we're putting it on. So if we put an S on a word that ends with a voiceless sound, like P, T, K, or F, then the S will say S. So for example, if the word state ends with T, it's voiceless. State, when I add S, becomes states. When I add group, groups. So those, when it's a voiceless sound, I just add an S, it stays voiceless. The error pattern you need to watch out for on those words is that sometimes because you're doing 2 consonants in a row or more at the end of the word, some consonants may drop off. So be careful to make sure that your consonants all remain and that you have the S on there so that you can clearly hear that it's a plural. Then if the word you're adding an S to ends with a voiced sound, and so that's the B, B, D, G, V, W, or vowels. So most sounds, most of the time when you add that S, it's going to say Z. So for example, on the word time, time becomes times. Day becomes days. World becomes worlds. The error pattern you're likely to have here is that instead of making a Z sound, you might be making an S sound on those words. Or again, other sounds can drop off. If you have a tendency to devoice the ends of words, then if you're saying a word like world, you might naturally say that more like world with more of a T sound. And then instead of worlds, it would sound like worlds. And by the time you're saying a word like instead of worlds, worlds, that will give your listener, that may confuse your listener and they may have a hard time understanding you. So most of the time when I put S on to make something plural, I need to say a Z sound. And then in addition, for certain words, we have to add an extra syllable. And you're probably already doing this naturally because the reason we have to add an extra syllable is when a word ends with S, Z, CH, SH, or J, we can't really put an S or Z sound on. I can't say place and then add another S, place. It would still sound the same. So I have to say places, places. And that extra syllable is an I and a Z sound. So place becomes places, case becomes cases, office becomes offices. The error pattern you're likely to do here is that second S, the one in the ES that I'm adding, says Z. It does not say S. So you don't want offices, you want offices. That can be extra difficult because we're usually using an S-E-Z, says. You can just practice that end syllable, office, says, offices, and add those together. So let's go through and practice a few words from each category to give you this idea. So first we're going to do some words where the S says S. It's a voiceless sound, a voiceless end sound on the word. So some common words for this pattern would be states, students, groups, parts, weeks, texts, nights. There are practice recordings and more words, longer list of these types of words on my website, so you can go there to the 30-day challenge and practice more of those. As you were saying those and listening, could you hear that there was no voicing there, that those were S sounds? Good. Now let's try some where the word has a voiced consonant or a vowel at the end, and we need to say a Z sound. Listen and make sure that you can hear my voicing, that it says Z and not S. Try them with me. Try times, years, days, things, lives, worlds, schools, families, jobs, problems. You might find that it's difficult to say those with a voiced consonant. As you saw in our lesson about saying voiced consonants, it's actually easier to say it in a two-word phrase. So we'll practice some of those. Try the windows are. So I'm saying the Z sound, it's almost like it's on that R. Windows are, windows are. The glasses are. The movies are. The jobs are. So if you're practicing those words with the Z sound and you're really feeling like it's hard to get that voicing, to get the D, add another word like are or of that starts with a vowel, and you'll be better off. It'll be easier to say that Z sound. Last category, words that end with SH, CH, S, Z, and J. We add the is syllable. So place becomes places. Let's practice some. Cases, businesses, services, houses, faces, offices, changes. Again, you can practice these with two-word linking. You can find recordings for these words and additional words that have this pattern on my website, so go there for practice. And when you feel like, okay, I understand this and I'm able to make these Z sounds for the S for plurals, a good exercise for practicing and knowing what sound to make at the end is to look around you and to name what's there. Both singular, use a singular and a plural. So for example, I'll look around and I'll say pen, pens, window, windows, lamp, lamps, phone, phones, computer, computers, glass, glasses. And that way I have to pay attention to what sound I'm putting at the end, and usually I'll be adding a Z sound. I have to make sure that I'm using a voiced Z. Another exercise you can do when you are comfortable with saying these words with a voiced Z sound is to do some repeated phrase practice. This will help you get this to be a new habit in your speech. Some examples, let's do a little bit together. We could try one with pieces. Let's try pieces of the puzzle, pieces of pie, pieces of the project, pieces of cake. We could also try it with the phrase things are. Again, a Z sound, things are. I'm going to link those two. Things are good. Things are busy. Things are fine. And just a little plug for another thing to pay attention to is when I'm saying things are, I'm actually reducing that R. It sounds more like an Things are. Things are good, things are busy. That's an example of a reduction that we do, and you can find more examples of that in my Real Talk playlist. That's where I tell you about how the spoken word differs from the written word. So if I'm writing that out in a sentence, I would write things are, A-R-E. But when I say it, I'm not really saying are, I'm saying things are. Other examples of that you can find, as I said, on my Real Talk playlist. That's a really great higher level advanced accent training that you can take a look at. I do also have a course for the Real Talk technique for fluent speech. You can find that on my courses page on my website and get a free trial of that or any of my other courses. I hope you join me again tomorrow. We're going to be talking in day 27 about how to use YouTube and other media to work on your accent. And also join me again in about 45 minutes. We'll be having a live question and answer class. So if you've been following along with the 30-day challenge and you have questions about what you've been learning, please feel free to attend and ask those questions. You can also always leave questions and comments on my videos, and I'll get back to you with where to find the information on my website or on my channel page. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. You can get notified when we're live for the Friday classes and for the remainder of our 30-day accent challenge. Click on the little bell and turn on your notifications, and then you won't miss any classes. It's been great having you here for the 30-day challenge, and I'm excited to hear your continued progress on your American accent. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. You're welcome. And remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. speechmodification.com.